to India and Ireland, round Africa and back again. We don't really need to know just where we'll go. Maybe Canada, then to Brazil, then through the Alpine foothills. All I really want to know is, can we go? Oh baby, can we go? Round and around the globe.
Welcome to Take Me With You, episode 101. I'm Ryan,
And I'm Cheryl. We are two well-traveled people who want to go everywhere.
but that's not going to happen. So instead, we'll travel vicariously by inviting a guest to share their unique travel stories with us.
Today, we're talking to Bob and Diane Palmer to plan a trip to Europe. Bob and Diane are authors of the book Twist the Throttle to Fuel Your Success and are also the owners of the personal growth and development group Palmer Motivation and Training, where they teach you how to discover your passions, define your dreams, and develop your purpose using practical lessons and principles so you can live the life you've always dreamed of. Welcome, Bob and Diane.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we should probably also mention that Bob is actually my father. So, there's a little bit additional connection there, too.
The last name is not a coincidence.
Full disclosure here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he still had me on, so there you go. I love it.
Absolutely. Well, there's a couple of questions that we like to ask all of our guests just to get an idea of where you're at when it comes to travel. And the two of you can answer these together if you feel like you have the same answer, but you're also welcome to answer individually if you want to kind of share some slightly different perspectives as well. Totally up to you. First question is, why do you travel?
My answer would be, why not? You could stay home, but we do that all the time. Di and I love to travel, just love seeing new things, new places, meeting people. We have never had, a bad travel experience. And I think even if we did, we'd still travel because I think you're going to get bad experiences. But I say, if you can always stay home, then why not go somewhere? Because you can always stay home. That's my thought.
Di, you want to add anything?
What do you think, my love?
I like to travel because it gives us a time to reconnect and refuel and recharge. And I just love to travel too. So
I love that. Seems like you guys like variety.
we do.
We do. Yeah, we don't, we have regular things that we do. We love going to Mexico and just, enjoying the culture and the sun and the beach. But we also love, there's so many things just here in the U.S. that so many people have never thought of doing and seeing. And because we love to travel on the motorcycle, we get to see those. And they're just amazing things here in the U.S. that a lot of people have, just never thought of. They go to Europe all the time, or they go some big fancy place and they've missed, the big ball of twine.
Wait, have you been to the Big Ball of Twine?
No, actually, that's one of them that we've missed. But I've seen the biggest ketchup bottle and all sorts of stuff like that. So
Roadside
I was going to say, if you saw the biggest ball of twine, you didn't show me any pictures.
yeah, we're going to hit that someday. We are going to hit the biggest ball of twine, but we have not been there yet.
Awesome. Next question. What type of traveler are you?
Yeah, I don't. Are you talking like high end or something like that, or what do you mean?
It's intentionally vague. You can define that however you would like to.
Well, my love, what do you think?
I don't know. It depends on what kind of a trip we're on. So if we're on motorcycles, it's like, bare bones and we just go all the time. If we're going to Mexico, it's a little more laid back and relaxed, but we do like to always do, different adventures or something we've never tried before or done. So it just kind of depends on what kind of a trip we're taking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because they're always different. They're,
Yeah.
a motorcycle trip is definitely a different trip than heading to Mexico or anything like that. So I think some people kind of travel the same all the time, and we definitely travel several different styles.
That's awesome.
So maybe a flexible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I remember the first time that I, took a motorcycle trip with me, and I brought her a
2 Ziploc baggies.
a 1 gallon Ziploc baggie, and I said, "Here, you can put your stuff in here." She says, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, it just has to fit in there. You take whatever you want.
Whatever you want. It just has to fit in these 2
there."
bags. So it's like, what?
Okay, so we love talking about packing light on this podcast. So I have to ask, what have you learned about packing light through packing in the size of a Ziploc bag?
We can ship anything and everything home. You can buy it on the road and ship it home.
Oh, I love that.
yeah.
That's good advice.
Uh-huh.
If you
That
find
is
something
great.
you want to buy, ship it home.
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
great.
well, and not only that, but
Dirty clothes.
we'll ship dirty clothes home.
Oh my
We'll-
goodness.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll take dirty clothes, because a lot of times, you'll buy, you'll find a T-shirt or a knickknack or something like that, and then of course, on a bike, you're running out of space. So we found that, you go to the post office and they have those $10 boxes, as much as you can put in that $10 box. So we just stuff it with dirty clothes and
Ship it home.
and ship the dirty clothes home for $10.
It was a game changer.
I love that. That's really good advice.
Did you figure that out yourself, or was that a tip you picked up from somebody else?
I think somebody else probably turned us on to that, maybe, or somehow it was like, yeah. In fact, I'm sure it probably
Lori,
was.
maybe.
Yeah, somebody turned us on to it.
Oh, I love that. I have a friend, when she travels, she will bring clothes that she's ready to donate and wear those on the trip, and then buy new clothes in whatever spot she's in from whatever culture, and then just donate her clothes there when she does that. So it's kind of a
That's a
unique
great
way
idea.
to do
It
that.
is.
Yeah,
That's nice.
that's a great idea.
See, we have another friend, give you the dark side here. he only brings the underwear that he's ready to get rid of.
Underwear
And then
and socks
he
and
just throws the
throws them
underwear and socks away as he goes to free up space in his luggage.
Okay.
There you
Fun
go.
approach. All right, our last intro question here is, what is your number one travel tip?
I think always be flexible, because anything can happen and you don't want it to ruin your trip. You just, okay, this happened, now move on and be flexible.
That's a good one.
What about you?
I like that. My tip would be go. if it was even remotely in your head, take a chance. Go. Work the details out later. But if it was kind of there and you thought, yeah, it sounds kind of fun, then make it fun.
I love that. That's totally my philosophy too.
I was going to say, yeah, you're speaking Cheryl's language. All right, well, we're going to transition into the meat of our episode here, and that is going to be helping the two of you plan a trip to Europe.
Woo!
So why don't you give us a little bit of background about what the purpose is behind this trip, and sort of what some of your goals are and what you'd like Cheryl and I to help you with.
Well, it all started because our niece is getting married in Italy. So that's how this all started. So now we're just working around the wedding. And so we started talking about a couple places, and we started looking around, and 1 week went into 2 weeks, and 2 weeks went into 3 weeks. And we're like, well, we're already there. We might as well see this too. So, we haven't worked out any of the nothing's locked in.
Okay.
And we don't know what we really want to see yet, or where we want to go yet. So it's just all in the planning stages right now. But we haven't had a lot of time to go, okay, if we go here, what do we want to see here?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I know we want to do wine tasting, and I know we want to do some cooking classes.
Oh, fun.
And of course, museums and art, and you know, take it all in what we can in the amount of time we have.
And then we thought we talked to a couple of professionals, and they'll know some stuff. And then here we are.
So after you talk to those professionals, we would love to talk with you as well.
I was going to say, I don't know that we're necessarily professionals, but we do love travel. So
What you play one on the radio, and that's all that matters.
Exactly.
And so when is the wedding and where in Italy?
It is next May, 2021, mid-May, as I recall, in Tuscany.
Oh, great. Very cool.
And you are also Italian. So and you've never been to Italy, correct?
Correct.
So just with Italy itself, what are you hoping to experience while you're in Italy?
If I could make some connections with my family, I don't know what that would look like, but we still have, family there. I think that would kind of be cool to do.
Yeah.
So we came from Rome. I don't know if anybody's still there. I don't have any of those answers yet, but I think that would kind of be cool. I'd like to at least go in Rome and find out where my grandparents lived.
Di, just to kind of back up a little bit. So Di's grandparents are the proverbial came over on the boat, spoke no English, and made a home in the U.S. and raised their family and stuff. So yeah, there's some huge history back there.
Yeah, that's not that long ago. So
No.
that's fantastic. Oh, very
Yeah.
cool. Great. So Ryan, it sounds like the overview that they were hoping for.
Well, it's possible that this all came about because we were talking last time I was over and they were talking about this trip. And then, of course, I got excited.
Yes.
Surprise, about Europe and countries. And then had you guys kind of list the places you're interested in. And then before we got too deep, I was like, wait a minute, hold on. Cheryl wants to be in on this too.
Oh, yay!
Which was perfect for us. We love that.
So
Wow.
let's see if I can
So good.
remember, if I'm remembering correctly, the cities that at least you guys are interested in, like you said, nothing's locked in yet, but that you're interested in are London, Paris, Barcelona, obviously Rome, and then also the wedding in Tuscany, maybe Croatia, and then also going to Greece, Athens.
Correct.
Does that sound right?
Pretty good.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think so.
That's good.
Great.
And who knows what we might add to the list, but yeah, that's kind of the basics right now. I think, as Di said, I think last time we looked, it was starting to creep into a possible fifth week of travel or something. But yeah, we're certainly open to anything and everything. We'll rule it out later.
I'm glad to hear that you're thinking about it being long enough, because I think it's exactly what you were saying. That's the temptation when you get over to Europe, is everything is so close. And especially when you haven't been to places before, it's easy to say, but this other country is right there. It's so close. And I've made the mistake sometimes when I've gone to Europe of doing that too many times with not enough time in my calendar. And then I'm only spending a day in each location and not really enjoying it as much. And so I think that that's going to be my first little piece of advice for you, is really think about how many days do you want in each location, and full days that are not travel days. Because those travel days, as you know, if it's a plane, you got to get to the airport early, or even a train that you take. And so those won't really feel like a full day to enjoy the location you're in. And so think about what pace you want to be going at, how much time do you want to explore each location you're in, and it can be tempting to just keep tacking on that one more place, and sometimes that's great and you get a really cool experience out of it, and then sometimes you can run yourself ragged because of that.
Sure.
Yeah, we've done that many times on the motorcycle. We do that, and it's like, so we don't really want to have things locked in case we do decide we want to stay another day, right?
Yeah.
That we can go, no, this is really cool. Let's just stay one more day instead of just going, we're going to be here and then we're going here and then we're going here.
Yeah.
I want to have that flexibility to say, oh no, this is really cool. Let's stay one more day,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Or a way around that, if you decide that you really do want to book your accommodations or whatever it is to purposefully plan a day with no plans. So that whatever that fun thing is that you discover, you can say, oh, well, we have time for that because we have no plans tomorrow. So we can go do that thing. So that can kind of be a way if you realize like, oh, we really want to book this Airbnb. And so we do want some accommodations in some of these places too. So that's kind of another strategy with that. But I'm
okay.
It's great to hear that. Yeah. Cause you don't want to be tired on this trip either, so
No.
Right.
yeah.
So what do you guys have a feeling for, typically when we go very many places and even on the motorcycle, we kind of already have some sort of, reservations someplace. So we need to get to this town to get to that hotel. Now, oftentimes we don't, and we just wing it. And then, once in a while we get caught saying, oh, guess what? There's a rodeo in town and there's no hotel for another 150 miles. Would you recommend always having reservations, or is it easy enough? And of course, with COVID and all that, who knows, but easy enough to semi-plan about, well, there's only two of us. We only need one room. Can we find a room? What do you think?
That's such a good question. I mean, I think it sounds like you're talking about visiting major cities. And so in a major city, there's going to be open hotel rooms the day of. I mean, that's just, even in the U.S., that's going to be the experience. Is if you're in the middle of nowhere, it might be a lot harder to find that last minute place. But if you're in London, you can find accommodations there without, needing to book something in advance. And if you're doing trains, then you can just get tickets the day of as well.
Yeah. Whether it's trains or also Europe has a lot of discount airlines that are very decent. And so you can sometimes fly, get a one-way ticket for $30 per person. Right, to fly from one city to another city.
Gotcha.
Sometimes the trains will obviously take longer, but then you also get to see more of the countryside,
Right.
which is also enjoyable. And the trains that they have in Europe overall are really nice, as well. Like they have, throughout some parts of Europe, they have bullet trains that travel extra fast. They've got regular trains. They have overnight trains, which may or may not be an experience that you want to have. But, if you're trying to maximize time Dad, I know you can sleep pretty much anywhere.
Pretty much.
I don't know, Di, if that's you or not.
I know, but I never slept on a train before, so that would be fun.
Yeah. So you could think
You've
about
done that,
that's
right,
just
Cheryl?
one of those
trying to
things that
find
I'm
the
like,
right spot to do an overnight
Yeah.
train. Yeah. A great way to decide your form of transportation would be, even if you don't want to book the tickets in advance, maybe even just look up how long is a train from this city to this city, just to know, like, oh, it's 9 hours. Maybe I don't want to spend 9 hours on that. So maybe I'll do a flight for that one. But this one's 3 hours, and I would love to sit and view the countryside for 3 hours.
Yes.
Yep.
So you could even just kind of look at some examples to see what you're even getting into.
And a couple of suggestions for how to do that. One, Google Maps is actually great. You can it has public transportation, and it has public transportation and trains oftentimes in Europe as well. So you can even put in your starting location and your ending location and tell it via train. And it can oftentimes tell you how long that is, just like you would do here in the States. So that's a good resource. Cheryl and I have also referenced Rick Steves a bunch of times, his guidebooks, and that would be tricky I don't know if you'd want to buy a guidebook for every single country that you might be going to, but one of the things that they have in the back is they have a map of the country that has destination times in between all the different cities as well.
Really?
So that's a good, and it's obviously a ballpark, but it's a good place to kind of get started with those sorts of things. So there's resources where you can at least get a rough estimate of those things before you're there.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. All right.
Yeah. So I'm curious to hear, kind of thinking about these different locations you're traveling to, why are these the places that you're interested in? Like, what is appealing about each of these places in a couple sentences, maybe?
So like for London, what is appealing to you about London?
Yeah. I don't know that I necessarily have anything super appealing about London for me, as much as a couple of our kids may be joining us, and they were kind of like, you got to go here and then see that, because then we can travel from there to there. So it was kind of, London wasn't originally on our list. It kind of got put on the list saying, oh, okay, well, if that's a cheaper, easier flight, and then we can go from there to there rather than coming the other way, sure, because a lot of our kids, like Ryan, have done much more, out of the U.S. travel than we have. So, we can tell you about Mexico. Other than that, I'm a little rusty on a lot of the other countries. So that's so London is mostly just a destination to get the trip started more than anything else. I think is fair.
How about Paris?
Well, Di's got to see Paris. I mean, it's Paris. So
Gondola rides, Eiffel Tower. Yeah. There's things over there you have to see.
So just like the iconic Paris is what you're going for, to see the Arc de Triomphe and to walk along the canal and all those things. Yeah. Well, Ryan and I have different views of Paris. I love Paris, and he was underwhelmed, but I agree.
Very.
I think you got to see Paris. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't ever recommend somebody not go to Paris. I don't have a strong desire to go back to Paris.
Sure, and I'm sure we'll find a lot of those places too that, okay, we've been here.
Yeah.
Not my favorite, but I want to say I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
to be able to say
absolutely.
that it's not your favorite because you were there. And
There
so
you
you
go.
know.
exactly.
And then what about Barcelona? What's intriguing to you about Barcelona?
I've just heard a lot about Barcelona, so I want to go see what it's about.
Yeah.
I've traveled Spain, and but I've not been in Barcelona, and I think
Okay.
Spain is just a spectacular country.
Yes.
So when the opportunity came to do Barcelona, and as I recall, Barcelona is another jump off spot to get to the next place, and it was a great way to do it. I thought, well, sure, let's do that, because I flew in and out of Madrid last time I was there, and traveled for 2 weeks through the country and loved it. I love the people, love their food. So
Nice.
it was kind of like, well, sure, let's go to Barcelona. I haven't
Great.
been there. Yeah.
And then Italy is the wedding. And then you want to see Rome. It sounds like your family's from Rome specifically. Oh, very cool. Oh, well, and I think I agree. I think you do need to see Rome if you're in Italy. Ryan.
Hey, I'd love to. I would love to. It's on my list, Cheryl. You know how long my list is.
And then with Greece and Croatia, is that a similar mindset to these other cities as far as like you've heard so many great things, or is there anything specific in either of those places?
Mykonos is top on my list there.
Di and I've talked about going to Greece for years.
So beautiful.
We've never made it a goal yet, but we've always both wanted to go. So
Great.
it's kind of like, well, if you're over there, maybe this is the time to make something happen.
Yeah. Well, I think we should probably dive into some of these locations then.
Yeah. We can kind of give you some of the highlights for each city, and then I'm kind of in the back of my head formulating some big picture recommendations too, that after we've talked about it, we'll kind of share some of that. So I'll just go ahead and start with London. I love London. I think it's great. If I were to say what are some of the big things to do, I would definitely say and I don't know why, but I love Big Ben. Just from the outside, just seeing it, it's beautiful. Anytime you see it in a picture or a movie, it looks that much more amazing. Now, right now, I think it's still under construction. So I don't know if it's supposed to be done by the time you guys are there or not. But Big Ben and the Houses of Parliament and all that stuff is really cool. The biggest thing that I recommend for anybody is actually the Tower of London. I thought the Tower of London was super cool. It has a very kind of medieval feel to it. There's the beef eaters that are there. The crown jewels are in there. There's a really cool museum in the sort of, I don't remember what it was called, but the White Tower, I think, that's sort of inside the Tower of London, that has, I think that's where one of Henry VIII's suits of armor is, and some of that sort of stuff. Like, those are the things that kind of like stick out to me initially, are just kind of that, just being there on the Thames and seeing, you know, Westminster is great. But like, if there's one thing I would recommend, it's the Tower of London.
Wow.
Like, easy,
okay.
hands down. That's for me. Cheryl, you've also been. What do you think?
Yeah, well, and I would say go to look at the view of Big Ben at daytime and at nighttime. And that's
Yes.
true of a lot of these iconic buildings, is seeing them lit up at night is really spectacular. And the reflection on the water and everything is really great too. Yeah, I would agree with those. I mean, if you think shopping is fun, Harrods is really something else, just because it's, I mean, I'm not always into department stores, but it is this massive department store. I think it's like 13 stories tall. They have a story that's just Christmas. And so I went and got myself a Christmas ornament from there. So that's kind of like,
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not even always into shopping, but it is pretty fun to go visit Harrods.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it's just a fun place to walk around as well, for sure. Yeah.
Yep. If you have a little more time in London, the British Museum is, you know, one of the famous museums. The Rosetta Stone is there. You can see the Rosetta Stone. They've got some stuff from Egypt that's there. And then separate in actually a different location is the British Museum Library. And personally, when I was there, I enjoyed the library more than the actual museum. Now, they've redone the museum since I was there, but the library has original manuscripts from a whole bunch of different things. They've got pages from the Gutenberg Bible. They have manuscripts of sheet music that Mozart wrote, like the actual stuff there. And like, I found that really, really fascinating and interesting. It's not super large. I wouldn't put that on the very top necessarily priority, but if you have the time, those would be other things that I think you might enjoy.
So how much time do you think, if you were gonna go and stay again, how much time would you stay in London?
In light
time
of
would
this
I
trip they're going on, Ryan.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. It sounds to me like London was not necessarily on your list prior to, and I agree, London is a great city to fly into, especially from Seattle, because it's only about an 8 or 9 hour flight, because you fly over kind of the northern route, and you can get from London Heathrow, you can fly to pretty much anywhere in the rest of Europe. So from that perspective, it is a great airport to fly into or out of. It doesn't sound to me like London is top on your priority, so I don't know whether it's going to be worth it to you to spend the time or not. Like, you guys could probably do maybe 2 days there and see kind of the big things that you might be interested in doing. For me personally, I'd want a week because it's so dense. There's so much there. I've not been to, Cheryl, maybe you can, to me, it feels like what I think New York might also be like.
Yeah, there's some similarities there.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like, it's huge and there's so much there, and there's so many different places to go, things to see. I've been to London twice, and there's still things that I've not been to that I want to see, and things that I've done that I haven't wanted to do, or that I have wanted to do that I haven't done. So
Fair.
I think it just depends again. But if there aren't things on your list already, I don't know that you need to invent them
Okay.
Yeah.
just because you're going to be there.
Well,
Okay.
and I think thinking about kind of hitting Italy and then your goal of going to Mykonos, you really want to give yourself enough time there. If that's
Yep.
especially been, you guys have been talking about it for a long time, and that's probably going to be a more relaxing place to end your trip, then you don't want to be there for a day or two necessarily. So you might even want to work backwards on this
Yeah.
trip to figure out what the front end looks like. I mean, my suggestion would be, if you're flying in, then give yourself 2 full days, so not including the day that you land in the city.
And you got to keep in mind too, the day that you land, you're going to start dealing with jet lag. So that's going to factor in to whatever your first city is too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Which, I mean, for me, when I do jet lag, I'm like, let's just beat it by going hard and seeing as much as we can so
Yep.
I don't think about being tired.
Yep.
And then I just hit the bed hard at the end of the day. But yeah, that is a thing to think about. But I
Yeah.
would think a couple days in London and then get yourselves to Paris and maybe like stroll more in Paris and relax and, you know, have some
Eat.
downtime there. Eat, of course.
So
you
do you
should
guys like, do you like to take the red eye out of Seattle to London? Is that kind of the thought?
I think oftentimes a lot of the flights, at least that I've done from Seattle, they usually leave like in the afternoon. And so I don't know if it's technically considered a red eye, but it does fly through the night. I like that just because I'm not going to sleep on the plane anyway. So it messes up my clock. That makes it a little bit easier for me to adjust. If I have the option to land wherever I'm landing in Europe in the afternoon, for me, that's my ideal because then I don't have to go as long before I can actually go to bed.
Oh, sure, because you weren't sleeping anyways, right?
Right.
Yeah, sometimes I've landed at like 8 a.m. and that's a lot of hours to kill before you get
Yep.
to sleep. Yeah.
Yep.
Sure. Okay.
But if you, I mean, Dad, you can sleep anywhere. I know. So, so I
hope
don't
you
know that
sleep
that's going to be a
before
problem
it
for you.
takes off. Yeah.
I'll probably miss the takeoff again. So.
Yep. Yep.
I've missed more takeoffs than I've been awake for them, Cheryl, just so you know. That's how I travel.
But you know,
Wow.
an 8 or 9 hour flight, you're probably going to wake up at some point on the
But
flight.
yeah, I'll,
I'm pretty jealous of that, though. Okay, let's talk about Paris. I'm excited for you for Paris.
Okay.
So you'll want to. There are a lot of great things to see in the city, and then there are also some fun options of day trips if you want to get outside of the city a little bit. One would be going to Versailles, which is a giant palace. Ryan was not as much of a fan of it. I thought it
I
was
didn't like it.
amazing, but I think it depends on, like, it is so ornate and there's this whole grounds and everything, so it's pretty large to see.
so it'll be kind of like just being at home then for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
No, I mean, the palace itself is really cool. I think for me, it was so crowded and there were so many people there that actually tainted the experience that I had. I think was a big part
and I
of it.
think that is something to think about with all of the locations you're going to, is those are all heavy tourist destinations. So
Yep.
actually, that was one thing I was going to suggest, is at some point in this trip, do some trips outside of the city that you're visiting. For example, when I went to Italy, I went to Rome. Rome was amazing. Oh my goodness, seeing all these things. It was just so beautiful. Every building, just even the non-famous ones, were gorgeous. But there were also people trying to sell me selfie sticks the whole time I was there. And so there's that piece where you're trying to enjoy the Colosseum, and then also, because it's a heavy touristed area, there are people trying to sell tourist things all the time. And so when I went, actually it was when my sister and I were in Venice, we went to Vicenza, which is a smaller city about an hour away from Venice. That was one of my favorite experiences in Italy because I got to see Italy without the tourist industry. And that was amazing. And so that's going to be true at any of these famous places that you visit. It is important to remember everyone's trying to see the Eiffel Tower. Everyone's trying to see Versailles. And so it is, I think, just good in general to have that filter while traveling to any places. Just, there's going to be lines. And that actually, I love your flexibility. And then also you might want to get some tickets online ahead of time so you don't have to stand in line
Yeah.
for 2 hours to buy tickets to some of these things. So you might want to have some commitments to certain days to go see things that are the really popular ones, because then you just won't waste your time in line. And it's kind of a bummer to be in line while you're in Europe. So yeah.
Sure.
For example, I think like the Eiffel Tower, you can oftentimes get tickets ahead of time.
Or the
and that
Louvre.
can cut down. Yep.
Another day trip that I have not gone to outside of Paris, but my parents went to, is they went to Monet's Gardens. And it is a pretty easy day trip outside of Paris to do, and you get to see like the water lilies that he painted, and because he like built these gardens so that he could paint them, and so apparently it's absolutely gorgeous. And there's some different, if you're not renting any kind of a car, there's some different like buses or things you can take out there. I'm trying to find the name of it. Ryan, do you want to talk about something in Paris while I find the name of it?
Mm-hmm. Another thing, if you wanted to do a day trip out of Paris, would be to do the Loire Valley, which is basically you can do a little wine tour through wine country if you wanted to. And I know you guys might enjoy something like that. But there's a lot in Paris, just like in London. It's a big city. It could be fun. One thing that I did when I was there that was kind of fun, there are a lot of, the Seine is the river that runs through Paris. And there are a lot of, you can do like a little boat kind of tour cruise things. And some of them do like a dinner. So you could do like a boat cruise dinner. And if you time it right, and I don't remember the exact time, you'd have to look it up, but at night there's a specific time, and I think it only goes for like a few minutes, but the Eiffel Tower has all of these kind of strobe lights on it, and it lights up and it flashes and does all of these things. And if you time it right, you can be on a boat on the Seine passing the Eiffel Tower when it lights up, which could be pretty cool.
Okay, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But again, that's one of those sorts of things you generally have to plan ahead if you want that sort of experience.
Well,
and so.
And then what I loved about the Seine is one time I was just in Paris for a long layover, and I just walked all along it. And it's lower than the street level, but there's some sidewalks that are like one level below. You just walk down a staircase, and you're actually walking along the river, and there's just pedestrians along there, and it's just delightful. I was there on a Sunday, and there were people out for a jog, and there were little playgrounds along there, and there were families there, and little boats that are like restaurants along there. It kind of felt like Green Lake in Seattle, where everyone was just out for a walk. And so that was so fun because it was so peaceful, and it felt like these are the locals just enjoying their little stroll that they do along the river. And so that was really special and really relaxing as well.
Oh, very cool. Yeah.
Monet's garden is called Giverny or Giverny, G-I-V.
Oh, Giverny.
Giverny, yeah. And
I don't know if that's actually the right way to say it.
Driving, it's only an hour and 15 minutes outside of the center of Paris. But apparently it is gorgeous. So if you're into gardens, apparently that's quite the thing to see.
Okay.
Some of the other major things in Paris, definitely the Louvre. I would say go to the Louvre. I'm not a huge art person, but the Louvre was still really cool. And it's one of those where you could spend multiple days there if you wanted to. I was there as a part of a tour, so I was only there for a couple hours and didn't have, a lot of control. But there's kind of I think the three big ones that are in the Louvre are the Mona Lisa, the Winged Victory of Samothrace, and Venus de Milo. And they're not next to each other, of course. They're in different places. But those are kind of the big three that they talk about in the Louvre. But there's so much other art there. And even just the experience of walking down and seeing these amazing works of art. And then there's other, art students who are in front of those pictures and they're painting and trying to recreate it and doing all these things. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
Neither Cheryl or I care about the Mona Lisa a whole lot. We feel like it's kind of a disappointment, but it's one of those kind of, like we said earlier, you still got to go see it for yourself.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
And I think they've changed the setup since I was there last too. So
Copies of the Mona Lisa are much larger than the actual Mona Lisa, and so it's kind of a disappointment because it's pretty small.
I've heard a lot of people say that.
I love the Arc de Triomphe. I went to the top of it a number of years ago, and that was really fun. So that was a really fun thing to see. But even if you don't go to the top of it, just to view it and it's quite an interesting place because it's an intersection of, I believe, either 6 or 8 major roads. So
I don't even know how many.
The traffic
it's
is
like
crazy.
a roundabout, but without any rules.
Yes.
Oh,
So-
Other than the direction that everybody goes in the circle. That's it.
so funny to watch the driving there. Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, Notre Dame, which I don't know if they've opened it back up to let people in or not, but even seeing it from the outside, that's beautiful. And then again, depending on how long you're there, if you're familiar with Sacré-Cœur, it's kind of on a hill that kind of overlooks Paris. And so if you can be up there, there's a church, and then there's kind of a whole area up there. But if you get up there at night, you can get a view of Paris at night with the Eiffel Tower kind of sticking up in the middle. And that's a really, really pretty view. And then it's a fun, just kind of area to kind of hang out with some shops and restaurants and things like that that's up there. So that's another kind of fun thing to do, sort of more in an evening sort of a deal if you've got multiple evenings.
Okay.
And I think there's a funicular.
I've never been to Sacré-Cœur. I have to go there and go up the funicular.
Cheryl loves funiculars.
Well, and I didn't even know I loved them until we started talking about them on this podcast.
I don't really know what they are. What's a funicular?
It's like a diagonal train.
Yeah.
It's like a train that goes up a very steep hill, but is upright at that angle. So it's
Gotcha.
very odd, and they're pretty old too. But they're all over the world. They're just. I think I like them because they're strange and unique. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then are you guys foodies? Do you appreciate food?
Yes.
Yep.
So, have you ever gone on a food tour before?
No.
Do you know what one is?
No.
Okay, so you must go on a food tour. You must, at least in Paris, probably Barcelona as well, maybe every city you visit. I don't like tours in general. I don't like being in a massive tour group. That's not my thing. But what's so fun about food tours, it's a really, really small group, and it's with a local, and it's several hours long, and they have reservations at a bunch of restaurants in one neighborhood, and they take you essentially restaurant hopping, and you get to try one dish or a couple bites of an item at a bunch of different restaurants, or maybe it's little cheese shops or all sorts of things. And they tell you about the history of those food items. They tell you about the history of the neighborhood you're in. I've gone on one in Barcelona. I've gone on one in Rome. They are so special. And what's really fun too is I find a lot of times when you're traveling, it's just you and the person you're traveling with. So it's kind of a nice break to be with some other English speakers and people. And I've noticed that the type of person who chooses to go on a food tour is a very fun person to hang out with because there's enough similar interests,
Sure.
And it's fun to talk with other travelers and get to just dialogue about the food you're eating and learn something new. But it's very chill. It's not like the rushed, busy, giant tour groups. So I would definitely recommend just looking up food tours in these different cities. But Paris would be so fun for that.
Well, that's exciting.
And I find too, sometimes when I'm visiting somewhere, there are so many types of foods I want to try. It can feel overwhelming because it feels like there's more foods I want to try than meals I even have in this city. And so it's fun because you get to try all the must eat things on one tour. And then you can also revisit the ones that you really love.
Cool.
So that's a big recommendation of mine for any traveler.
Okay, I love it.
And I'm gonna leapfrog for a minute just because you mentioned it right now, Cheryl. Because and I also happen to know that you did this. And I think this is something that Di especially would really enjoy, but Dad, I think you would too. In Italy, you can do a food tour, but you can also, I believe, didn't you do a cooking class or a cooking tour or something when you were in Italy, Cheryl?
No, I did not.
Oh, I thought you did.
I wish I did. That sounds fun.
I'm trying to remember who it was then, because I know somebody who did.
Fun.
And that's, I think, something you've got to put on your list there, Di.
Oh yeah, that's definitely on my list.
Yeah,
In Tuscany, we're gonna do.
Yeah, evidently we're signed up or supposed to be signed up for a cooking
Nice.
afternoon of cooking or something over there, which we both love. And I was gonna say, it's not like I've never done food tours. I open our refrigerator all the time.
Wow, so cultured. I just love it.
Let's go ahead and talk about Barcelona. Barcelona is a place that Cheryl's been a bunch, and it's a place that had not been on my list until we started this podcast, and now I definitely want to go to Barcelona.
Oh,
I'm so excited for you with Barcelona. Spain is my favorite country. It's just amazing. And Barcelona is such an amazing city. So let's see. Some of the highlights, to me, one thing that you have to see is La Sagrada de Familia. And that is a church in Barcelona that was designed by the architect Gaudi. And what's unique about it is it's still being built. And I think that's so fun because you're going to see a lot of cathedrals and you're going to see a lot of very, very old buildings that were built hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And it's so interesting to see one that is still in the process. It's about 65% done. And construction stopped for a number of years in the 1900s, but now they're working on it. And so it's probably my favorite one ever. There's stained glass on all the windows, and they designed it that at different times of day, different colors fill the room. And the columns are designed to look like trees, and when you look up, it's supposed to look up like looking in a forest. So it's very unique. It looks so different than a lot of cathedrals that I've seen. And it's just so interesting that it's still under construction. It's called La Sagrada de Familia.
Of course it is.
La Sagrada Familia, the Sacred Family. And so yeah, but Gaudi lived in Barcelona for a number of years and designed a lot of buildings there. And so and his work is so unique. And so you can even look up on a map where are his buildings and go walk around and look at them. Yeah, and he designed a few things that are in the Park Güell, and that's a really amazing place to visit. It's up on a hill, but it's still kind of in the city, and it overlooks the whole city and the water. But he actually was starting to design like a neighborhood, a community there. So he lived there for a while, and it's a beautiful park. And you can walk up these trails, and they walk further and further uphill, and you just get this really good view of the city.
Sweet.
Really great district to visit is the Gothic Quarter. There's some really unique buildings there. That's actually where I went on my food tour, was in that neighborhood. So that was really neat. They also have an Arc de Triomphe, which I didn't know that more cities than Paris had an Arc de Triomphe, but apparently that's kind of a common thing, is to have a big arch when you, I don't know, triumph over something. And I like theirs a lot more than the Paris one, actually, because it's red and it's really interesting. It has some interesting pieces on it. And then another thing I think is really interesting is there is a neighborhood, an area called El Poble Sec. And there are a couple things in there. There is a castle there. So if you want to see a castle, that, you know, is a great place to see it. And you can actually take a gondola up there from the bottom of the city, because it goes up a hill. So that could be a fun way to get there. Okay. But then the thing I like up there a lot is called El Poble Español. And it's kind of like an architecture museum. There are about 150 building fronts in this pretty small area from different areas of Spain in different regions. So it feels kind of like being at Disneyland, where you just walk around this little path and there's all these different fronts of buildings. So some of them they moved there and some of them they copied. But it'll tell you the year it's from and the region of Spain. And so you can kind of see a representation of a lot of Spain in this little section. And there's a restaurant in there that has live flamenco shows. So then you can also go eat good food and watch flamenco dancing, which is fun.
Okay.
But then also in that same area in El Poble Sec is the Olympic, what's the word? I'm clearly not into sports because I'm totally forgetting the word.
The Olympic
the
Village?
Olympic, yes, where they had the Olympics and they had the games there. And so if that's exciting to you, you know, you could also see where the Olympics were there. So that's a really neat area. And yeah, Montjuic is where the castle is. Castle de Montjuic. And then Barcelona's on the water and it's Mediterranean. And so the beach there is gorgeous. If you like beaches, which I think you do if you like Mexico. I walked down I walked down to the beach and there was like a little bar on the beach, and I brought my book in order to drink, and there was live music and just like this gorgeous beach area. So that was really fun to go down there as well.
Nice.
Which is if let's say you're spending a couple of days in London and then you've done a couple of days in Paris, right? Maybe a few more days in Paris than in London, and now you're in Barcelona, it may not be bad to just have one of those days that Cheryl was talking about as a non-planned day, other than just to like, we're just going to go hang out on the beach and kind of relax and recover before we dive in, for all the craziness that's going to be the wedding, because that's your next destination, right?
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
So I think Cheryl's idea of planning backwards, starting with, you've got kind of it sounds like two big things, right? The wedding, because that's a set date, but then also I think Mykonos is kind of your other really big important one. So plan those ones first and then plan everything else around it. But if the timing works out, Barcelona might be a good place for kind of a rest and relaxation day.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Love that. All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love the idea of working backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I love that. Yeah.
And then Ryan would love to tell you about a day trip that you could do outside of Barcelona, which he fell in love with, and I have not gone on, and he hates me for.
And now, of course, I don't remember what it's called because it's been too long since I looked at it. But when we were helping Beth and Steven plan for their honeymoon,
Montserrat.
That's it. Yes, Montserrat. So it is. It's a day trip, and it's this kind of city. I think it used to be a monastery. I think just up on the cliffs. And so you have to take this big, huge, long gondola trip up there, and it looks absolutely gorgeous and beautiful, wow. And it's just kind of very, very different, kind of up in the mountains, kind of. And I don't even know exactly what you would do other than just enjoy the view and just kind of see the cool things that are there. And then there's also, and it's not there; it's in a different location, but another thing out there is a Salvador Dali. They have a museum for him. I don't know if you guys like Dali and his art or not. He's the limp watch guy, kind of a surrealist, very, very odd.
Yeah, kind of interesting. I might be interested in it. He's not always one of my favorite artists that I search out, but if you're somewhere close, yeah.
Well, Ryan, that was actually in Figueres, which is a couple hours.
Oh, is
from
that
Barcelona?
Well, yeah, I said a day trip.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Oh, which reminds me, because Dad, you love Van Gogh, right?
Yeah, he's my favorite.
There's a ton of Van Gogh in London in I don't remember which museum it is. I don't remember which museum it is, but there's a museum in London that has a lot of Van Gogh's stuff. So that may be something. It looks like it's in the National Gallery. In
Barcelona, there's also some really cool markets. So one fun thing is you could go to the market and buy some meat and some cheese and wine and like make your own little meal out of things you can buy in the market. So that's a really fun thing to do.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Barcelona's wonderful. You're going to love it. I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I enjoyed Spain so much before. I'm sure that Barcelona is just going to be a great reminder of that just spectacular country. So.
Yeah, well, and it's so interesting that, Spain has these really distinct regions. And so it's interesting, just like the Catalonian region has its own identity and is so interesting. Yeah, it's so great. And the Mediterranean atmosphere is good as well.
We're getting excited.
Yay!
Sheesh. Yeah,
good.
You guys are great.
And then Rome.
Yeah,
Rome.
Looking forward to Rome.
Oh, good. Rome there's a lot there as well. I mean, there's just a lot in these locations you're picking. And so, yeah, I would just say don't plan too much in one day so you can actually enjoy the things that you see. I think in Rome, you have to see the Colosseum. And you can do a tour if you want. It is one thing I would recommend getting a ticket for so you don't have to wait in line. But it really is something to see. And so I would say, even though there's a lot of people that visit it, I think you do need to see the Colosseum.
Yeah.
But what's so interesting about Rome is there are so many gorgeous buildings that I kept thinking, well, what this has to be famous for something, and it was just a beautiful building. And so no matter where you walk in Rome, it's just gorgeous.
It was big for, feeding people to the lions. It was pretty famous for that.
Yeah.
And then I also went to the Vatican and climbed to the top of St. Peter's Basilica, and that was really amazing. And so I would say at least go see it. But if you don't mind a narrow staircase, it is quite spectacular to actually be able to climb to the top of it and view the city and be inside of a dome is a really unique experience. So that's something you can think about doing as well.
What do you think about the Sistine Chapel? Is that a must-see, would you say, Cheryl?
Well, and that's in the Vatican. And so
Right.
you can kind of group those things. I think the Sistine Chapel was really amazing. You go through a whole museum before you get there. And so it's interesting because it's all one path. So you have to go through the whole museum. There are a lot of painted ceilings even before you get to the Sistine Chapel, which is pretty funny because they have signs kind of like telling you like, it's coming soon, don't worry. And then, but what you see, the famous image from the Sistine Chapel is the two fingers, right? Like God creating man, those fingers.
Right.
That is a teeny tiny piece of that whole ceiling. And it is really something to behold. And you have to like think about not getting your neck too sore because you just stand there staring up for a long time. There is such intricate detail. There's so much going on. And so I spent a long time there. They are very, very strict with no photography. But the nice thing is that you're not getting distracted by trying to take pictures of it. You're just enjoying it and looking at it.
Sure.
But
Be in the moment.
yeah, so you can kind of do both of those things in one day. And then in the Vatican, there's these really gorgeous grounds that you get to walk through as well. And it's just, it is quite beautiful. And of course, it's well landscaped.
So is the Vatican itself kind of one day to see all the different things in the Vatican?
I think I did more like a half day, but I was moving quicker. But I would say maybe it could be your only planned thing for that day so that you don't overdo it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Pantheon is really an amazing building as well. It's this dome, and they actually don't know how they got it up because it's this massive dome on these columns, and they have no idea how it's constructed. And so it's a really interesting building and really fun to see. But really, a lot of the iconic buildings, you could even just map it out and just kind of go around the city and check out the different iconic places. And then there's also a pyramid in Rome from 12 AD. So, and the reason I saw it is because I went on a food tour in Rome, and it was called the Taste of Testaccio tour. And Testaccio is a neighborhood that's a little outside of the main city. And that was one of my favorite things because it got me out of the main city area. And I saw this pyramid and I thought, well, that's ugly. And why did they build a pyramid here recently? And then I learned on the tour that it was actually from 12 AD, and it's shiny because they had it cleaned recently. But they were trying to copy Egypt. That was like the hot trend at the time. And so they built a pyramid on the Roman wall in Rome. And so that was a really unique thing to see. But, there's a ton of great food in Rome, and just everywhere you look, it's so beautiful. So, yeah, Rome is very great. Lots to see there.
So how many days would you say if you guys were going and saying, here's what you should do? How many days are you thinning?
Oh, wow. Again, it's going to depend on the rest of your trip, but I would say at least 3 to really get to see
Non-travel
a
days.
lot of, yeah.
Might be at 6 weeks.
I was going to say, I think, so yeah, that's like a minimum, but I think, especially Di, I think you're going to just enjoy so much of Italy that, again, that may be a place you may want to book just some extra days just to, because I'm guessing you'll be in Rome after the wedding
Yeah.
as opposed to before. I guess I don't know, but just to have time to explore and to enjoy, and maybe, if there are day trips you want to do or not. I think when we were talking a couple weeks ago, I think, there's other parts of Italy that are also really, really cool. You're going to be seeing Tuscany because that's where the wedding is. You're going to be going down to Rome. As much as there are other places in Italy that I think are also cool, I don't know that you want to try and stack on another major city if you're still going to try and make it to other places.
Right.
Yeah, that's very good advice.
Okay.
So, Ryan, you've been to Croatia.
I have. I've only been to Split and for a short little while in Zagreb, which is the capital. I think you guys would be most interested in either Split or Dubrovnik. Split is almost parallel with Rome as far as just like latitude goes. It's almost just straight across that's the Aegean Sea, I think. And then Dubrovnik is farther south. They're both coastal towns, very Mediterranean, very tropical. They are both cruise destinations. So that's also something just to keep in mind. Who knows if cruises are going to be running, of course, next year in 2021. But that's a thing where they, that's something actually for a number of cities. If there are big tours, I think you'll probably get this in, maybe not as much in Rome, but any place that's a cruise destination, there's kind of an influx of people and an outflow of people, because when they unload the boat and then when they all have to leave. And so if you can get to places before the cruise people get there, you have less crowds. And if you can wait and do some of the things after people have left because they get back on the boat, again, you'll have smaller crowds.
Right.
Yeah, we kind of plan a lot of Mexico stuff around that same thing.
So you're
if the
familiar
cruise ships
with
are
that.
in town, you don't go downtown. Yeah.
Exactly. So, I think the deal with Croatia is there's some really cool locations in both Dubrovnik and in Split. They've got some ancient Roman stuff. Of course, you will have already been in Rome, so, it may look somewhat similar, but they have, I don't even know how many hundreds of islands. And so going on sort of a boat tour of some of the different islands, or going visiting and maybe staying on one of the islands instead of maybe on the mainland, that could be something that's really, really cool as well. We did one when I was there out of Split, and it was sort of a day trip thing. And we went, and visited different places. There were some really cool water caves that we got to go through and see that were really beautiful. And then we were I don't remember, on one of the islands that had this beach, and we had lunch at this restaurant that just like overlooked the beach and this beautiful, cool, water. Like that's kind of what you'll get in Croatia. If, I don't know that it's necessarily should be the top on your list per se. However, there's the selfish part of me that says, yes, you do want to go there because, especially in cities like Split and Dubrovnik, they rely so much on the tourism and the cruise destinations that they're suffering like crazy right now with all the COVID stuff. And since travel has just shut down, their main industry has pretty much shut down in those cities. And so that has been a major blow for them. And so, again, selfishly, because I know people who live there, and, I kind of want you guys to go so that you can kind of help with their economy a little bit. Two people is not going to make a major difference, and that should not be obviously the deciding factor as to whether or not you go to Croatia. But it's definitely one of my biases with Croatia there.
And then neither of us have been to Greece.
No.
So that's the one location that we're not really helped with.
No, but I know people who have. And so Mykonos definitely has a really, really, big rating. And then I feel like there's another island that's next to Mykonos that's a little bit smaller. That's another Konos, but I don't remember how it starts. And I know that you can both stay on the island. You can do, again, boat tours through the islands there. And you can do some of them that would even be like overnight. So like multiple days, kind of like a mini cruise that you could do.
That'd be great.
The other place in Greece that I know is on my list is Santorini, which is another island.
Absolutely.
And that's one that's just iconic with those really, really white buildings with the blue, and it's just, you know, just gorgeous. I think it's a caldera too, if I'm remembering correctly. So an old volcano that erupted. It's extinct now, but you know, so that would be another place. Athens, obviously, there's really cool things to see in Athens. The Parthenon. There's the I think isn't there like a thing for Athena, like her palace, I think, and maybe that is the Parthenon. Maybe I'm getting them mixed up. But you know, there's a number of those types of sites that are around Athens as well, that are pretty cool to see. But yeah, I haven't been there yet.
We'll have to send you pictures.
Yes.
It sounds like you have kind of the busy big city on the first end, and then it sounds like the second half you might get like that relaxation and take it easy and more nature and everything. So that's fantastic. That sounds wonderful.
Because I think Greece will probably be there a week.
Yeah, and I think, you know, any of the kids that are going to join us are probably there early on too, so we can
just there the 3 days.
We can do a little more of our own thing later on too, which would be easier to slow down if we wanted to, rather than somebody saying, "Hey, you have to see this. You got to go here."
Yeah,
because the kids won't have as much time as we have. We're just going to make sure and take the time.
I'm also just going to throw it out there, and obviously with family it gets complicated, but there is nothing wrong with splitting up during the day. If different people are interested in different things, even if you're traveling together, that sometimes is actually more enjoyable for the group as a whole, right? Like 2 people want to go off and do this, and another 2 people want to go off and do this. And you agree that you're all going to meet back at a particular restaurant for dinner and share your experiences or whatever. Because the bigger the group, obviously, the harder it is to coordinate everybody.
That's how we do it on our motorcycles.
Yeah. In general, the bigger the group, the more, I don't think successful is the right word, but the more efficient you will be if you have things planned out farther ahead of time. Because when you have a big group of people and you're now, okay, here's our day, what do we want to do today? That takes a lot longer, and you end up losing time that you could be going and seeing things, deciding and negotiating and making those decisions. So if you are going to have a larger group, once you figure out exactly how many people those might be, that might be the time to make things a little bit more rigid and a little bit more planned ahead of time, just so that you don't have to make those decisions while everybody's there trying to figure it out.
Right. Good point. Love it.
How are you guys feeling?
Good.
Ready to go.
Excited.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
We just threw a lot of information at you, but you have this as an audio recording now to refer to. So
Exactly. You can come back and re-listen
and
to
don't
it.
think I
anytime you
won't,
want.
because I'm sure I won't be able to read most of my notes. I'm like, what do you think that word is? Yeah. So, especially when they're words that I'm not familiar with.
Yes.
Even the words I am familiar with, I can't read them when I write them. So these other ones will definitely be referring back to the audio.
Yep. And just to, plug our podcast a little bit more, we do have quite a few episodes that touch on people who've been to some of the places that you're going. And so you can hear from other people who've traveled there. We have a couple other planning episodes. We did some planning for Cheryl when she went to Spain a couple years ago, almost 3 years ago now. And then, like I said, Beth and her then fiance, now husband, we did some planning there with some of the Barcelona stuff with Spain. We've got people who've been, again, to a lot of these places that have shared really cool experiences beyond just what Cheryl and I have experienced or shared too. So that can also be a resource if you're interested.
Very cool. Yeah. No, I love that.
We also happen, just because, again, I'm just going to start plugging things. We're in the middle of a summer series right now where we're also reviewing different travel shows and travel programs. And so depending on some of those may actually give you some cool inspiration and ideas of things you might be interested in if you're still trying to figure out what does this look like, or how do I go about this, or whatever. So you can also look back through, even if you just want to know, like, hey, what even are some places that we can go to kind of look at travel and shows to watch? Because I like to watch video of places and see, what does it actually look like, and what is someone's experience there. And so we've had fun this summer kind of doing some of those as well.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
That's
Love
awesome.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, Are there any other questions that you guys have for us?
I'm good.
Yeah, nothing I can think of. You guys
Right
have
at the
been
moment.
fantastic. Geez, I got 3 or 4 pages worth of notes here. So thank you so much.
Well, you said you're going to have 5 or 6 weeks worth of travel, so that seems
Yeah.
Well,
appropriate.
that's true. Yeah. And that's just this way. We might have to come back on here, in 6 more months because we've had it another 2 weeks or something. So who knows?
There we go.
Okay. No problem.
Yep. We're always happy to talk.
Well, thank you so much for your time and your knowledge. This has been awesome.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, we're going to go ahead and transition to the last part of our episode called Wish You Were Here. During this segment, each of us is going to highlight a travel attraction from the different places that we have been. You can think of it kind of like a little snapshot or a postcard that you would get from a place that, hey, this was this really cool thing. We wish you were here. So Cheryl, why don't you get us started? What would you like to do for your Wish You Were Here this week?
This week, I would like to share about a hike that I love on the Oregon coast at Ecola State Park. So Ecola State Park is just north of Cannon Beach, and Cannon Beach is wonderful, and I mean, it's just such a gorgeous area with Haystack Rock and the Oregon coast, but it gets crowded there sometimes, and so going on a hike just north of there is so fun because you still get the gorgeous coast with no one around, and you still get some really good views of Haystack Rock actually as well. So it's really fun. It kind of dips in and out of view of the ocean, but it's a great hike and so green and lush and beautiful there. So that's my Wish You Were Here for this week.
Awesome. Dad, Di, are you guys going to do a joint Wish You Were Here, or would you like to do individual Wish You Were Heres?
I can hardly wait to find out myself.
Go ahead.
What-
You do joint. Go
What
ahead.
were you thinking? No, you go. You had something in mind, it sounded like.
No, not really. I mean, I got a lot of different highlights, but go ahead.
Well, just something, I guess, for me, quick that we love, and again, this comes from our motorcycle time, is from here. It's just a quick trip. We love to go to Leavenworth for lunch. It's close. There are all sorts of restaurants. I don't think we've had a bad meal there. And if you go up. Even if you just go up and back in a day, it is not too much. It's a great way to go. If you don't have a motorcycle and you can find somebody with a convertible, particularly in the summertime, take the convertible because the views are so amazing when you get outside of the car. If you have the top down, and it just changes that whole experience. And for me, that's just it's quick, it's easy, and it's just a great way to spend a day.
I love that. Leavenworth is wonderful. Ryan, how about you?
Yeah, I'm actually also going to do a hike. There's a hike that I just did a couple weeks ago, actually with Cheryl's sister, Lisa. We
Oh, nice.
went to St. Edward's State Park, which is right nearby where I grew up. I don't know, Dad, if you remember.
I do
St.
remember.
Edward's there.
Yeah.
I think we did swimming lessons there or something
Yeah.
at one point in time. Is that right?
True. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. See, I remembered that. So it's really, really cool because it doesn't feel, it feels like it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It actually is kind of up. It's very, very kind of forested. There's tons of different trails and paths that you can take. So you can do short ones, you can do long ones. Right now it's under the actual, there's some buildings there that used to be a monastery, and it's kind of under construction. So you can't go in there currently. But you can go all the way down. And if you walk the right paths, you can get all the way down to Lake Washington, and there's sort of a beachfront there, but it's green, and it's kind of just the Northwest forest with ferns and trees and luscious and little rivers and creeks running through. And it's really, really, really beautiful. And it's just simple. It's in Kirkland. So it's, a little bit outside of the city of Seattle, but not super far away. But it feels very, very kind of removed from big city life. So it's just a fun one right there.
Nice.
Love it. Well, Bob and Diane, thank you so much for being on our podcast today. We loved having you.
Thank you. We loved it.
Oh, great. Do you have anything that you'd like to plug?
Well, we've got our book is out, Twist the Throttle to Fuel Your Success. And it's not just for people who ride motorcycles. This is, we got the title from, a passion that we have, but it's about just being successful in life and learning to set goals, things that we were never really taught in school, and how to live your dreams, how to get there. So the book, we have it right now. If you pay shipping and handling, you get the book for free. We would just soon you have the book, and then if there's something that we can help you with to go beyond that, we'd love to do that. But you can go to our website, palmermotivation.com, PALMER, motivation.com, and the book is over there. So $5.95 for shipping, and we'll get the book out to you. And we just love that having you folks have us on the show. It's been an absolute treat for us.
Great.
Yeah, it's been fun. We would love it if you would follow us on social media. We are at TMWY Podcast. That's TMWY for Take Me With You Podcast. We are on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter.
You can also email us at timwepodcast@gmail.com. Send us your travel questions. And if you are planning a trip somewhere, come on our podcast and we will help you plan it.
Absolutely. You can also call us and leave us a voicemail at 406-763-8699, or if it's easier to remember, 406-POD-TIMWY. Please rate and review our podcast and this episode to tell other people what you think about it. Make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss any of our episodes when they come out on Mondays, and be sure to share about this episode on social media so other people can learn about cool places to go to in Europe.
As always, thank you to Beth Reed Miller for the awesome artwork. You can check out more of Beth's artwork at Beth Is Something. And thank you to Erica Corbin for the use of her song Round the Globe. You can listen to Erica's music wherever music is sold or streamed.
Dad, Di, thank you so much for being on the podcast. This was a lot of fun for us to plan and dream with you.
It was great.
Thank you both.
Yeah.
Yay!
That's all we got for this week. So until next time, remember to take me with you.
Take me with you!
Can we get a sailboat chasing down the sunset as we float round and round the globe? Salty air and balmy nights, guided only by the lights above, and light little love. Oh, the world is out there waiting to explore, and all our troubles here want them to be